Hi again, everybody. Today is going to be one of the final videos on my How to Make Moonshine series, so thanks for tuning in and thanks for watching. As you remember from my earlier videos, I showed you how we made a stainless steel pressure cooker into a still. I also showed you how we attached a regular kitchen thermometer to monitor the temperature of the mash. We don't want to burn it or get it too hot. I showed you how we use a ceramic hot plate as our heat source, and that's again where the temperature gauge or the thermometer comes into play, because we don't have a really good idea of how much heat we're generating with this hot plate because it has a real primitive control down here. I like the ceramic hot plate because it doesn't have a open source flame, which is always good when you're dealing with enriched alcohol. I showed you how we made our worm box, which is a 5-gallon pail, and how we constructed our worm using copper coiling and attached it down here through a hole in the side. So today we're going to take a good look at the entire process. Unfortunately, I don't have any mash to run through, so we're going to simulate the process using water. But for you, if you have your mash at home, the process will be the same. Okay, here's a different vantage point of my setup. You can see we've got the stainless steel pressure cooker right here. We're going to boil our mash inside there, or at least bring it to the point where the alcohol vapor boils off. We'll capture that as it comes out of here, connect it to our worm tube, have our water, which is full of cold water right now. You can add ice if you need to. That will take the alcohol-rich steam and condense that out. Come down here, and we'll capture it in our mason jar, of course. A lot of you have asked how we are going to connect the copper worm to the still. It's a real simple solution. Okay, this is our connector piece. This is a high temperature hose that I think is specifically made for an automobile, but it's never been installed. You get these new, clean, from a automotive parts store. It's got two 90-degree bends, and then at the end I just used electrical tape and I attached a rubber gasket to it, which is a vacuum hose that you also can pick up at a hardware store or at an auto store. And I electric taped that on there, and this piece right here will fit nicely on my copper worm. So I'll put this back on the tripod and show you how to connect the two. Okay, you know from earlier videos that the copper is very malleable. So first thing I'm going to do is attach the wide end of my adapter to the top of my pressure cooker. I'm just going to push that on, seat it down nice and far. You can see that it fits on all the way down snugly, and it's got 2 or 3 threads on this top bolt that are going to make a nice good seal for that. You can also see I rubber banded the thermometer under to hold it in place so I could monitor the temperature closely. Now the other piece is our copper wire, and I'm going to try to do this one-handed. I'm just going to bend the wire down, or the copper piece down, until it connects, and we're going to seat it in there. So let me put this back on the tripod, and I'll show you how we do this. Okay, I spent a few minutes adjusting the worm. Ideally, you don't want to have any part of the system really under any kind of tension. So what I did, I wanted to show you right now. I bent the worm, again, using small, deliberate little bends, nothing too severe, otherwise you'll kink the copper. And you see in its natural state, it's sitting right about where it would be once I hook it up to the pressure cooker. So I'll move the hot plate over a little bit, put my still on there, and you can see it's almost perfect, so there won't be any really pressure points or really on any points under tension, and it'll all sit together nicely. So I'll connect that, and then I will take the top off, fill this full of water, crank it up, and we'll show you how the process works. Seat it down tightly. Okay, we skipped a step. If you're going to go ahead and make your mash, your ethanol mash, that takes about a week. You can go back to video number 1 to see how to do that. Again, I'm simulating that we have mash in there today. What I did is I poured all my water, about 3/4 of a gallon, into my still. It's just water. It'll take a while for it to heat up, but I wanted to stress this time, when you're actually taking your ethanol mash, you want to filter that through some cheesecloth. You don't want all the cornmeal and sugar or yeast bodies in your still to boil off. So this is just going to be the liquid. Okay, getting close to 172. This would be the point where if you had mash in here, it would start to boil off the alcohol. Again, we don't. We just have the water. So we'll wait till at 212 to see how the process would work. One thing you're going to note when you do this for yourself, it gets hot. That heat is going to be convected up through the copper tubing. This is still cool to the touch, but eventually this is going to be hot, and it'll be hot all the way down, probably about a third of the way or halfway through your worm, depending on how cold of the water you have in there. So be careful. Don't grab anything that's bare metal without knowing how hot it is. Okay, here's the moment we've been waiting for. We're at about 212 degrees right now, which is where the water will boil off. If I do a quick tap test on the worm up here, this is extremely hot to the touch. I'm going to take the camera off the tripod, and we're going to do a touch test to see how high the heat is getting. Hot up there. Okay, I'm touching the worm, and it's hot to the touch all the way down to the water. This is cool water. I can hear the boiling right now. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit. And what's going on in here, if you have the mash mixture, is that the alcohol-enriched steam will be condensing out as the hot steam is cooled by the cold copper. And that'll continue on down there until we catch it in our spout. Let me focus here. Okay, we've got a pretty steady drip now. Again, this is just purified or distilled water, but the process would be identical if you were going to use any kind of a mash that we developed earlier on in our video series. We're getting a pretty steady drip out of there. Always want to throw out the first 2 ounces, maybe 2.5 ounces out of your every 1 gallon batch of mash. That has all sorts of nasty impurities on it that you don't want to put anywhere near your body. Okay, here's the whole thing in operation one more time. If I'm repetitive, I want to make sure I get all the steps down. We have our hot plate, ceramic hot plate. We have our stainless steel pressure cooker, which is our still. We have our kitchen thermometer to monitor the temperature, and we can adjust the temperature down here accordingly. We have our 90-degree high temperature pressure hose here that connects the still to our worm. The worm is a copper tube that goes around into the worm box, which is a 5-gallon pail. Superheated steam goes through there, hits the cold water, condenses, and collects down here in our mason jar. And that is what we've been learning. Have fun, be safe, thanks for watching.